Hello everyone, welcome to the podcast Imagine with me, Rutger. And today we've got a special guest, a proboscis monkey, because we're recording this in Brunei. So hello! Have you ever seen them? They've got the best little noses. Well, big noses if they're alpha males. I was on my bright yellow 1970s Peugeot bicycle, riding up a street, lowering the gears and hoping they would all slide into place neatly this time because the lorry behind me was getting closer and closer. One gear fail and I'd likely come to a halt. And if that happened, my life too would have come to a halt because the lorry was so close I could feel its humming and heat on my back. The pressure was high, so there I was, powering up this hill. The gears luckily went into place as the truck kept creeping closer and closer. I could feel the despair of the driver and the loud hum of the engine so close. Safety advice to cyclists says you should ride in the middle of your lane to increase visibility and the safety space when you get overtaken. But I was terrified and wanted to show my goodwill to this person, so I crept as close to the curb as I possibly could. And in a flash, the lorry driver changed gears, hit the gas, and overtook me so close that everything inside of me and around me trembled. He powered up the hill, puffs of grey smoke coming out of the exhaust pipe, and I took a deep, smoky breath and a huge sigh of relief. Whew, I was alive. One more of these crazy overtakes and I was still alive. Rattled to the core, but alive. This is the kind of thing that happens to me and anyone cycling every day. So if you're listening to this episode, it means I was not killed yet. In a well-intentioned move to increase safety on that particular street, the local authorities have recently installed speed cushions to reduce automobile speed. I don't know if you know what a speed cushion is, but they're these brown, reddish, square-shaped, plasticky-looking things. So in theory, these cushions allow cyclists to ride between them, but in practice, there are pylons standing between the lanes, and there is so little space between them that it becomes a truly hazardous maneuver. The choice in your face is try to cycle straight over a cushion and pray your wheels won't slide, or slow down until you've practically stopped and cycle around the cushion. I wish authorities would ask volunteers to test these things in the first place in practice, because it would save time, money, and more importantly, lives. Wouldn't it be ironic to die because of a speed cushion that the local government has installed to protect you? Talking of protection, I want to share some urban myths about cycling, and I'd love you to share these with anyone you know. I truly believe we can save lives. Myth 1. Bikes worsen traffic. You can actually thank that cyclist in front of you at the traffic light because they represent one less car clogging up the traffic around you. And there are essentially two other reasons why this happens, according to research. Induced demand. So increasing road capacity attracts more cars, leading to more congestion. Conversely, reducing road capacity by introducing bike lanes can encourage more biking and discourage car use, alleviating congestion. When a city's public spaces are connected by a robust bike lane network, the demand for biking is created. And this means not scattered around bike lanes for you to drive your car with your bike inside and then cycle for a few meters, but well-connected routes that actually can take you places. 2. Traffic evaporation. When road capacity is reduced, some car trips may disappear because of convenience or congestion, either because people chose alternative modes of transport or because they're now combining or eliminating trips altogether. Myth 2. Cycling two abreast or side by side is for beasts and it makes it more difficult to overtake. This is a massive miss. This is a massive myth. When two cyclists ride side by side, they actually shorten the length of obstruction for the car that is passing. This means that the car can then pass faster and in a shorter amount of space. It also increases visibility and therefore safety. Why biking is bad. But aren't those all lies? We've busted those myths. Now it's time to tell you why walking is a waste of time and cycling is a bad idea. It's bad for the economy, for our healthcare, for mental health, and for the environment. Let's see why. The economic impact. Cycling is bad for the economy because instead of spending thousands on a shiny new car, insurance, road tax, people zip around on a €200 bike. What's next? Walking barefoot? Cycling presents challenges for healthcare providers, with fewer patients needing prescriptions due to improved health from meeting or even exceeding the World Health Organization's recommendation of 150 minutes of physical activity per week. Doctors may find themselves less financially secure. This may lead some to pursue hobbies like knitting instead of relying on a steady income stream from medical prescriptions and appointments. Mental health terror. Cycling is bad for mental health services because it's hard to bill for therapy when people are too busy enjoying the wind in their hair and the beautiful sights in front of their wheels. There are environmental considerations too. The rise of cycling and walking as primary modes of transportation could lead to a significant downturn in the automobile industry. As more people choose not to buy cars, manufacturers may face financial challenges impacting jobs and economies reliant on automotive sales. Simultaneously, this shift has profound environmental implications. Reducing car usage means less fossil fuel consumption, leading to lower greenhouse emissions and a decrease in air pollution. While this transition could significantly benefit the planet, it also raises concerns about the livelihoods of those involved in the automotive sector. Imagine. Okay, I'll admit it. That was silly, but I couldn't resist. To beg your forgiveness, I want to take you on an imaginary journey. Imagine walking out of your apartment building and feeling a sense of spaciousness. It's a sunny day and the trees offer you a stunning play of light and shadow. You and your dog are checking out your friend's new house, so you take out your phone, open the map, and analyze options for how to get there. 35 minutes by car, but you'll need to see if there's an available car in the car share app. 12 minutes by bus, and it runs every 10 minutes. 10 by bike, or 20 walking. You feel like stretching your legs, so you decide to cycle there. You're taking your own bike so that your pup can go in the back basket, and you can put the cake in your pannier bag. You unlock your bike. You set off, the wind blowing in your hair, the end of daylight turning the city to gold, your dog's nose nestled against your hip, and you give the old lady and her dog a little nod as you cycle past them near the garden. There's an intersection coming up, so you slow down, but the car that's coming from the other side waves you through, so you don't have to come to a halt and lose momentum. Bonus! Big smile, big wave. The driver smiles back. This is what happens in some cities around the world. It's not what happens in my lovely city of Lisbon yet. This is what I want us all to imagine, because it is possible, and it will bring us all better health physically and mentally in a more inclusive city for all. The streets become places of chance encounters with strangers and friends, building a sense of safety and community. But how do we take this from imagination and fantasy to reality? The good news is there's enough research and information out there. The World Health Organization, for example, has put together a toolkit titled Promoting Walking and Cycling. This handy toolkit, accessible to all policymakers and citizens, was developed by Philippa Bull, Mariken Lurs, and Joanna Willemsen. The toolkit says, and I quote, Walking and cycling are foundational modes of transport and physical activity with the power to transform health, mobility, and the livability of communities. End of quote. I want to explore these. The power to transform health. Imagine that simply by making walking and cycling safer and more accessible to all, we would radically transform the health of our populations. Well, we can. Power to transform mobility. It may feel as though we cannot live without cars, and we've always had cars. But their widespread and tragic use is relatively recent. Just consider that in the late 1800s and early 20th century, the streets were full of pedestrians and some horse-pulled carriages. Go and look for images. Like Clive Thompson says in his article in the Smithsonian Magazine, and I quote, "At the turn of the century, motor vehicles were handmade, expensive toys of the rich and widely regarded as rare and dangerous. When the first electric car emerged in Britain in the 19th century, the speed limit was set at 4 miles an hour, so a man could run ahead with a flag warning the citizens of the oncoming menace." End of quote. There was a dramatic change in the state of affairs in 1908 when Henry Ford released the first Model T. That was when cars became affordable, and fast too. Instead of going at 5 miles per hour, the Model T could zoom up to 45 miles an hour. As the car became widespread by 1925, automobile accidents accounted for 2/3 of the entire death toll in cities with populations over 25,000. I'll say that again. By 1925, automobile accidents accounted for 2/3 of the entire death toll in cities with populations over 25,000. This shows us two things. One, we can live without cars, or at least with fewer. And cars are essentially killing machines, turning us into potential assassins behind the wheel. Livability in communities. How much can you genuinely interact with fellow drivers? You are separated by tons of glass and metal and plastic. Whereas when you walk or cycle, you can look people in the eye. You get to have informal chats. You get to actively promote safety on the streets for everyone. This World Health Organization toolkit presents a comprehensive policy framework to help countries unlock the wide-ranging benefits of walking and cycling. Developed for policymakers and stakeholders across sectors, including health, transport, urban planning, environment, and education, it offers evidence-based policy options and implementation guidance to promote safe, accessible, and inclusive walking and cycling environments. I won't read you the 100 pages, but I strongly urge you to go and read it yourself. Highlight the areas where you might be able to influence your local politicians, boroughs, community groups, etc. Active mobility. What is active mobility? The World Health Organization describes it this way, and I quote, "Mode of travel in which the sustained physical exertion of the traveler directly contributes to their motion, for example, walking, running, or using a bicycle, hand cycle, manual wheelchair, or skateboard. Electric-assisted forms of micromobility such as e-bikes and e-hand cycles can be considered active travel as they also require the user to contribute to motion." End of quote. I love that wheelchairs are included here. So if I haven't managed to convince you from the point of view of your health and well-being, I'm sure I'll convince you by showing you that you too have a responsibility for making your streets more accessible to everyone, no matter how they move. Think of all the people in cities like Lisbon that feel trapped in their homes because they need someone to help them every time they want to leave their house. There's certainly a kind of caring culture in Portugal that, to be fair, I'm not a huge fan of. It's this idea that we all have the obligation to help each other, and this gives permission for bad systems to be in place. Yes, I 100% agree that each one of us must be caring and lend a helping hand, but we cannot build our systems in this way because it creates victimhood. If you do not have limited mobility, how can you become an ally of everyone that has limited mobility? This is one of the underlying advantages I adore about planning for active mobility. It's that we design cities that are more inclusive. Just think of it. If the paths are well maintained, well connected, and feel safe, more people will be able to use them. People with sensory or mobility limitations, people using wheelchairs know that their journey will not be abruptly stopped. People with hearing impairment know that a car won't just fly by at 60 kilometers per hour because the few cars that are on these roads travel slowly and can see pedestrian crossings clearly. 6 co-benefits of cycling. Let me walk you through the 6 co-benefits of cycling and walking identified in this World Health Organization toolkit. They are health, road safety, equity, environment, economy, and mobility. Health. They are accessible forms of physical activity that help reduce the risk of non-communicable diseases, supporting mental well-being too. Road safety. Provision of well-designed, safe infrastructure can reduce and prevent road traffic injuries and death. Equity. Active transport is often the only affordable option in low-resource settings, highlighting the need for safe infrastructure as a matter of social justice. Environment. Replacing short, motorized trips with walking or cycling can significantly reduce urban emissions, improve air quality, and mitigate climate change. Economy. Investment in active transport boosts local economies, creates jobs, reduces healthcare costs, and supports tourism. Finally, mobility. Walking and cycling enhance multimodal transport by providing efficient first and last mile connectivity to public transport systems. Change has never been easy, and we cannot always sit and wait for the government to take all the action needed. Otherwise, we'll be like the loquat in a poem I adore by Mario Henrique Leria, who lived between 1923 and 1980. It goes like this. The loquat was in bed, lying down, very quiet, seeing what was happening. An old lady arrived and said, "Look, a loquat," and bam, ate it. That's what happens to loquats that remain lying down, quietly waiting for things to happen. Take action. As I was saying, we cannot sit back and wait for the government to take all action. The government is made of real people who can be tricked and can succumb to the tentacles of organized industries, and I'm not saying governments are totally corrupt and cannot be trusted. I am saying that we all need to work together to become more robust. Recently, Rutger Bregman shared that some fellows of the School of Moral Ambition uncovered something. In an EU study about increasing taxation on tobacco, out of the 18,000 responses, how many do you think ended up being fake? I'll give you a moment to wonder. Almost half were fake citizens created by the tobacco industry as a way of manipulating democracy. This is happening now, 2025, and this is why we need to imagine better futures and take the action we can now. Allow me to continue the segue into tobacco for a moment to read a quote from Rutger Bregman about the tobacco industry. Most folks don't realize this, but the deadliest industry on earth is perfectly legal. I'm talking about big tobacco. More than 8 million people die from smoking each year. That is more than all wars, natural disasters, and acts of terror combined. And no, this isn't about choice. 80% of smokers start as children. Most want to quit. But the industry has spent decades engineering addiction and selling it as freedom. End of quote. This is why we need less us against them and more together. How can we change this? Because ask anyone you know that smokes, and most will have started when they were too young. Okay, and back to active mobility and imagining. I want to share a few fabulous initiatives that exist right now in Portugal. I'll take you to Viana do Castelo first, in the north of Portugal, with the beautiful Viana Ciclável. They are all volunteers who invest their time in a cause that impacts others. Viana Ciclável have been organizing community bike repair workshops called Cicloficina. A cool detail is that they coordinated the setup with help from the mothership in Lisbon, Cicloficina dos Anjos. Viana Ciclável has organized Critical Mass, which is where community members, adults, children, pets all take over the streets and cycle safely, with the support of the police who close some roads. This allows people to embody the feeling of moving from one place to another by bicycle. Embodied imagination, I'd call it. They have also organized a festival, Festival do Pedal, the Pedal Festival. I love hearing about their updates because they are actively working with the City Hall to promote active mobility. So again, it is a game of building bridges and forming alliances for a better future. Check them out on Instagram, and if you find yourself in the north of Portugal, swing by with your bike and say hi, or without your bike. I know Lisbon a bit better, so it gets more mentions, but if you are involved in an initiative that promotes and supports active mobility and inclusion, please get in touch. Everyone needs to hear about that work so we can inspire each other. Tia Bina, Auntie Bina. Often the first step is the hardest because we don't know where to begin. If that's your case, then this project can be your starting point. They teach children and adults how to cycle. It's a funded project. All the classes are completely free. So look them up. Tia Bina, Tiabin. Lisboa. A less formal way to gain confidence for cycling in the city is by going to Lisboa. You won't find it on Instagram or on any website, but I can tell you how to find Lisboa in real life. Show up in front of Saldanha at 8 p.m. on any Tuesday and you will be welcomed by a friendly group of people on bicycles. Anyone who comes can join and they ride around the city. It's a really good way to be part of a huge group of bicycles enjoying the city. After you go, tell me something. Did you start saying bora to everyone you saw on a bike? Cicloficina dos Anjos, a volunteer-led community bicycle workshop. It's a place where you find tools and friendly faces so you can learn the basics of bike repair. They also sell bike parts, so if you need to get your bike checked and learn a few tricks of the trade, talk to them. This can save you from getting caught by surprise with some mechanical trouble while you're out on a long ride. But if you do find yourself on the road with a flat tire and no tools or knowledge, don't fear. That was exactly how I started to learn. I remember the first flat tire I got when I started cycling in the city nearly 4 years ago. I was devastated because I was on my way home and just about 2 kilometers away, so close and yet so far. I was embarrassed because as an independent woman, I did not have my toolkit with me or a spare tube, which made me feel vulnerable and stupid. So I called my husband, which is the cliche of what no independent woman wants to do. But I'm married to a feminist, so I just had to see it for what it was. I needed help, he was nearby, and had the ability and know-how to help. So I called and was grateful that David was able to come with a spare tube and switch it. That was apparently what I needed to start learning how to deal with my bike, and from that day on, my toolkit is attached to the bike. I'd rather take the risk that someone steals it than of being left unable to complete a ride for something so small. Live and learn. I'm happy to report that I have since then changed and repaired multiple tubes. I used to have pretty soft tires, which often led to punctures, which provided excellent practice, but I have had no more since switching to the trusty Schwalbe Marathon. They were hand destroyers to change, though. Ciclo Femina, a community bike workshop for women, trans, and non-binary people. It's on the third week of every month and is at the same place as the other Cicloficina de Rua de São Bento near the Parliament. Girls Bike Ride. You can find them on Instagram, and in real life you'll find them on a Sunday morning outside of Decathlon Alfragide. A friendly bunch of girls led by Liliana, the fabulous, inspirational, imaginative Liliana. And the bike ride route really depends on who shows up on that Sunday. So some routes will be really small, short and slow, others will be longer, and there's never any pressure. The idea there is really to get more girls, more women involved, because we know that once you put a woman on a bicycle, her family's going to be on a bicycle. Bicicultura. Bicicultura is a non-profit cooperative. It's also a movement that promotes cycling as a sustainable mode of transport and encourages bicycle use as part of everyday life. It encompasses various initiatives, including infrastructure development, community events, and educational programs aimed at increasing awareness about the benefits of cycling for health, the environment, and urban mobility. Bicicultura advocates for bike-friendly policies, improved cycling infrastructure, and safe routes for cyclists. It seeks to create a more bike-centric culture within cities, making cycling accessible and appealing to a broader range of people. Through these efforts, Bicicultura aims to reduce reliance on automobiles, decrease traffic congestion, and contribute to a cleaner and healthier environment. One of their initiatives is the bike train. Have you heard about this kind of train? A bike train is an organized group of students and adults who bicycle to and from school together. The biking group makes designated stops to pick up and drop off students on the way to school and back at the end of the day. In a partnership between Bicicultura and the City Hall, more than 4,500 kilometers have been traveled by children on these bicycle trains. Inspira mobilidad. And now, if we cross the river and land in Almada, we will find Inspira mobilidad. Inspira mobilidad is a non-profit association founded in September 2024. They bring together people from Almada of different ages, backgrounds, and expertise areas to rethink the way they move, prioritizing people and the environment. MUBI. MUBI is a nationwide organization, has been around since 2008-2009, it is made up of citizens who are interested in active mobility and cycling in particular. MUBI aims to advocate for and expand the legal rights of cyclists, promoting fair and safe conditions for bicycle use in public spaces. The organization seeks to integrate and protect active mobility users, establish better structural conditions for cycling, and enhance recognition of bicycles as legitimate vehicles. Additionally, MUBI informs the public about the benefits of cycling, fosters intermodal transport solutions, and engages proactively with media and policymakers to influence accessibility and mobility strategies. MUBI wrote a manifesto called Cidades Vivas, Living Cities, where they outline a vision for transforming urban mobility in Portuguese cities, emphasizing a shift from car dependency to more sustainable modes of transport, such as walking and cycling. The manifesto calls for municipalities to commit to urban planning that prioritizes public spaces, green areas, and active mobility to enhance quality of life. Especially if we consider that 30% of the distances traveled by car cover distances shorter than 3 kilometers, and that 50% are shorter than 5 kilometers. Additionally, urban centers are responsible for 70% of greenhouse gas emissions, and road transport is the main cause of air pollution in cities. They propose 10 concrete measures that anyone in policymaking and positions of leadership can benefit from reading and proactively integrating. Back to the toolkit. Thinking of concrete measures, I want to bring you back to the World Health Organization toolkit to share a couple of case studies. I love that they've chosen case studies from a range of places, from Vienna to Bangalore to nationwide initiatives in Saudi Arabia. I've picked just one to showcase what can be done in a tangible, concrete way. In Portugal, I get the feeling that the fear of failure is so big that we'd rather sit in a puddle of yuck than risk anything at all. Whereas if we gather data, make well-informed guesses, the chances of success are high and the opportunities for improvement are endless. Let's go to Vienna, Austria. In 2014, the city of Vienna set a goal that by 2025, at least 80% of journeys in the city would be made by public transport or walking and cycling. This is a bold number, and it gives people a goal to work towards. To help kickstart this ambition, Vienna declared 2015 the Year of Walking. dedicating the entire year to promoting the initiative, raising awareness, and providing behavior change opportunities to its citizens. Initiatives included mass distribution of maps of walking paths to show the city from a pedestrian perspective, and the development of a mobile app called Winzefuß, Vienna by Foot, providing a city walking guide and highlighting short routes by interests, distance, and time. I love that this initiative spanned across an entire year and had ambitious goals. This gives people ample opportunities to try out and test different routes and options, and it will give authorities lots of good data to make better decisions with. Call to action. I want to encourage you, my dear, to follow and subscribe to the podcast Imagine for more episodes, and share your thoughts on active mobility or anything else you want to imagine for a better life in a better world. Considering that active mobility has physical, social, mental, and environmental benefits, I'd love to encourage you to consider cycling and walking more. If you live less than 10 kilometers away from work, consider cycling. If work feels too far away, consider parking 1 or 2 kilometers before getting to work and walking the rest of the way. Or if you use public transport, consider getting off the train or bus one station or stop earlier and walking or cycling the rest of the way. Explore one of the initiatives mentioned in this episode and support the one you most identified with. So, what's your next step towards a more active city? I want to end with a quote from the toolkit. Walking and cycling are not just modes of transport, but also essential ways to create healthier, fairer, more resilient communities. Now is the time to take the next step, from intention to implementation. The opportunity is here to put this toolkit to work. End of quote. So what is one action you might take to promote active mobility now? And if you feel like you're trapped by the car option and do not have a choice at this point in time, what about parking 1 or 2 kilometers away from work and walking that bit? It's a way to improve your cardiovascular system. Thank you for listening to the podcast Imagine, and I will chat with you in a month's time. Much love.